In this video, I'll explain how to set up a default route in Angular 1.0.8. If you'd like to follow along with the code samples, here's an overview of the steps you'll need. It's pretty simple. Step 1, just clone the repo that you see in the URL here. For step 2, after you clone the repo, move into that folder and use the npm install command to install any dependencies that are needed. Once that's finished, you'll use the command npm start to start your web server, and then you'll use localhost :3000 in your browser to actually view the local web server. In order to follow along with the code samples, you might want to clone this GitHub repo that I created just for this video. So open up a terminal window and type git clone and paste in this URL, and that'll pull down the repo. And then move into that directory by typing cd space, and you can just pull that in there, and then type npm install, and it'll just take a second for npm to install dependencies, and when it's finished you can type npm start, which will start the local web server on port 3000. You can even copy this message here, minimize this terminal window, open up a browser, and if you paste that URL in, localhost :3000, you'll see the code sample in the browser here locally. So let's take a look at the code first. So open up your code editor and then open up the folder that contains the code samples from the GitHub repo that we cloned. Here in the JS folder, you'll see a file called myapp.js, and that contains all of the code that we really care about for this application. There's a few things going on, so let's just run it down. First, on line number 2, we create a variable called myRouter. And myRouter is equal to Angular.module, and we pass it the name myRouter. So myRouter, the variable, becomes an Angular module. The next variable is config function, and that's a function. And that function runs from line number 6 until line number 40. So most of our application is this one function, and we're going to go back here in just a couple of seconds. The third thing that happens is we say myrouter.config. We pass it route provider as dependency, and then pass it the config function. So the myRouter variable is the one we created up here in line number 2. That's an Angular module. So the Angular module has a config method, and that config method takes an array, and the first element in the array is the route provider, and then we pass it our config function. So we're saying this is the function we want to use for our configuration. So let's look at that config function. That config function is receiving route provider as a dependency, and then we're going to use the route provider object. We're going to use its when method. So this object route provider has a when method, and you can see we're chaining here. We're saying when, passing in some stuff, when, passing in some stuff, and so forth. So the when method takes a couple of arguments. The first argument is a string, and that string represents the path or the route that's being requested. Slash indicates the root of the application, or no route. So our default route is being handled here. And the second argument is an object. This object's got two properties. The first property is template URL, and that tells us the URL to the template that we want to use for this route. So the URL we're using is message.html. It's a relative path. It's a file here, message.html. It's in the same folder, so we get that HTML file. The second property is a controller, and that is a function that's going to be our controller function for this route, or the slash or base route. In this function, we're getting scope as a dependency, and we're saying scope.message equals welcome to our application. Then we're chaining, and we say when hello, or when the user selects the hello route, use this object for our configuration. The first property is template URL, same template, message.html, different controller. The controller is this function, getting scope as a dependency, and scope.message is going to equal hello. And then when the user selects the goodbye route, or when/goodbye, use this object, same template, and use set scope.message to equal goodbye. So let's take a look at that much in the browser. So open up your browser, which should be on localhost port 3000 already, and you can see that we've got goodbye now, which we don't want, so let's just go to the base. So now we're at our base of the application, and the message is welcome to our application. Why is that? Well, that's because this message correlates to here, scope.message equals welcome to our application. That's when the user selects this or the base route. And when the user clicks hello, we see here the message is the word hello. And why is that? Because we said when the user selects hello, then we want to say scope.message equals hello. And when we click goodbye, we see the word goodbye because we said when the user selects goodbye, then here scope.message equals goodbye. So that's all working pretty well. But what's this down here? The route provider object has another method called otherwise. And the otherwise method says, hey, when the user selects a route that does not exist, here's where we're going to handle it. So when the user selects anything other than base, hello, or goodbye, we're going to handle it here. And in that case, we're going to say our template is the same, message.html, but the controller this time will set scope.message to say no such route. So we're handling / hello and goodbye. Otherwise, or when the user selects any other route, say scope.message equals no such route. So let's see that happen. We click bad route and we see no such route. And that's because this route here, bad route, that route doesn't exist. We haven't set up a handler for that. You don't see anything here that says bad route, just / hello and goodbye. So when the user selects bad route, they get no such route. We get home, hello, goodbye, and bad route. But so what if we maybe want to do something different when the user selects a route that doesn't exist? What if we want to send them someplace? We don't want to show them no such route. We want to send them someplace. Well, we can get rid of these two properties and we can give the otherwise a property called redirect to. I'm going to save that and I'm saying redirect to the base. So when the user selects a route that does not exist, redirect to the base. So I'm going to refresh the page. I'm going to select goodbye and refresh the page. So now we have goodbye, hello, home, hello, goodbye. And I'm going to do bad route now. Look what happens. I get welcome to our application. Why is that? That's because we said when the user selects a route that does not exist, redirect to base. And base says scope.message equals welcome to our application. So that's why we're getting welcome to our application. So here you can see that the otherwise method is great because it allows us to set a specific message for when the user requests a route that does not exist, or it allows us to redirect to a different route in that scenario. So there's definitely more to routing in Angular 1.0.8, but hopefully this video explained to you the very basic stuff in terms of how to set up your router and how to configure your different routes. Angular 1.0.8 is pretty outdated at this point. My guess is if you're still working with this version of Angular, you're headed to Angular 2 pretty soon. But hopefully this video got you to where you needed to go in terms of setting up a default route. And if you're looking for more front-end tutorials, please visit kevinchisholm.com/video.